Hello guys, welcome back to my channel .NET Go. And so our today's session is about .NET framework, managed code versus unmanaged code. So I believe you guys have heard this word before, like managed code and unmanaged code. If not, then don't need to worry. In this session we will deeply dive each and every important parts about managed code and unmanaged code, like what is a managed code and what is a unmanaged code, and after that what is the advantages of a managed code, and what is the disadvantages of the managed code, and same for the unmanaged code. Then we'll see the differences. Okay, and then we'll discuss each and everything in very deeply. Okay. Okay, so now, what is managed code? A code which is written to aim to get the services of the managed runtime environment. Execution like CLR in .NET framework is known as managed code. Okay, so what happen is, if anyone ask you like what is a managed code, right? So you can simply tell that buddy, like that each and every code which we can run in a environment which supports CLR, like common language runtime. Okay, so those codes we can tell as a managed code. Okay, uh, what I mean to say is, about CLR, right? In the later section we will have a large, a very big video, particularly on the common language runtime systems. So for now, you can understand that in .NET framework there is a mechanism called CLR. So a CLR, what it will do is, a CLR will helps your code to run in a .NET framework. Now how it is helps your code to run in a .NET framework, that part we will discuss in later sessions. Okay, so for now you can just understand that whichever all the codes you can develop and then you can run by the help of CLR. Okay, those codes you can tell as a managed code. Okay, uh, then the second point is, it always implemented by the managed runtime environment instead of directly executed by the operating system. Okay, so just now I was talked about the .NET framework environment, right? .NET environment. So by this runtime environment is nothing but that .NET framework environment which have that CLR technique to run a code, right? To run a application from a code. And here also in the in the second point, right? Here also this point is mentioned, like instead of directly executed by the operating system. Now our operating system also can directly execute one application. Okay, those application are actually developed by a unmanaged code, right? So whatever the codes are you know directly executed by the operating system, though those codes we can uh, tell like these codes are unmanaged code. So those part we will discuss later in this session only. But for now, yeah, managed code is always run in the environment which we can tell is a managed runtime environment, means which can support the CLR thing, right? Okay. Okay, so the next point is, look, that managed runtime environment provides different types of services like garbage collection, type checking, exception handling, bound checking, and etc. To automatically code without the interference of the programmer, right? It also provides memory allocation, type safety, and there are other things also. Okay, now we will discuss about the that a managed code always runs on a managed runtime environment, and by CLR, you know by CLR, those managed codes can use every services which is there only in inside that a managed runtime environment. Those services are, what are those different types of services? Those services are a garbage collection, you know type checking, exception handling. Now I think uh, you guys will not understand if you guys don't have any experience, if you guys freshers or studying in a college. I understand that you guys you know not able to understand that what I am talking about the garbage collection. What is a garbage collection? What is type checking? What is exception handling? So all these things is a part of your application development. You need to handle your exception. Okay, you need to handle your error. Okay, so here exception handling means the runtime exception. So this thing we will learn in C sharp concepts. And then the garbage collection. Now garbage collection is also known as automatic memory allocation, right? So this that means this automatic memory allocation or this garbage collection also we will discuss very briefly in our later session, where we will learn about the CLR thing, right? It all comes under the CLR thing. Okay, so yeah, for now you can just remember that a managed code always get the advantage of all the services, all the different types of services which are there in a managed runtime environment. Okay, if anyone ask you that what are those services, you can name some of the services like garbage collections, type checking, exception handling, you know and type safety, memory allocation, all those things. Now uh, I have few example of a managed code. So C sharp is one of a managed code. Okay, Visual Basics .NET is a managed code, and then Java is a managed code. So why we are calling this codes as a managed code? Because this code always we can develop this code in a managed runtime environment, and after developing the application, we can also run very smoothly on any managed runtime environment without worrying about multiple things. Now what are those things? We'll discuss in the next slide. Okay, now we will discuss about the advantages, and in advantages only we can understand that what are all the things we don't have to manage manually when we are working with the managed code. Because uh, when we are working with the managed code, then the managed runtime environment only supplies you all those required all those required facilities. So the first point is it improves the security of the application in the runtime environment. It automatically checks the memory buffer and handle the buffer overflow. Now in the first point only you can get that it automatically, okay, a managed code or a managed runtime environment is automatically checks the memory buffers, right, to handle the buffer overflow. Okay, then the second point is it implement the garbage collection automatically, right? So garbage collection is very big thing. Okay, later on we will learn what is a garbage collection and how it is working. But for now you can just you can remember that garbage collection is a very big thing, and a .NET runtime environment, it is automatically manage your garbage collection, okay, for you. Okay, as a developer you don't have to do all the things manually. Okay, it is a big headache to do manually, okay, a garbage collection or a memory allocation task. So in our .NET runtime environment, means our managed runtime environment, it is automatically it can be done by your managed runtime environment for your managed code. Okay. And then the third point is like it also provides runtime uh, type checking and dynamic type checking. Okay. So now you will not understand what is the type checking. For understanding the type checking, we will have a separate session, means afterwards, when we will learn other things also about .NET. So for now you can just understand that basically there are uh, two types of variable we will have in our uh, .NET application development environment. When we are working with C sharp, basically I'm talking about, when you are working with C sharp, you will have two types of variable. One is runtime variable, one is compile time variable. Okay, those type, it is automatically checking. Okay, so by this point I am referring that type checking concept. Now how it will work and what is actually it is, okay, that we will learn, we will discuss it in a later session, briefly. Okay. Okay, now the disadvantages. Okay, rather I'll say the disadvantage, because I have mentioned only one disadvantage as per my experience on on a managed code. You can always open to go in a Google and just search for other advantages also if you want to learn. But as per my experience, okay, I found this, this is the one disadvantage of a managed code, that is the developer are not allowed to allocate memory directly, right? Or you cannot get the low level access of the CPU architecture. Okay, so this point I have mentioned you already, like as a advantage only I have mentioned you this point, that you don't have to manage your memory allocation manually. So automatically you will not have any access to handle the memory allocation. The .NET that managed runtime environment only will do all these things for you. So this is a kind of disadvantage also. Why this is disadvantage, we will discuss it briefly in the in the later later time in this session only. Okay, so and another thing is you cannot get the low level access of the CPU architecture, right? Now what does it mean by the CPU architecture is, so this is basically means like to do a memory allocation, you have to access your CPU architecture. This is correct, because this type of programming you will only do when you are working with the embedded system. Okay, if you are developing a embedded system when you are working with the hardware directly. Okay, you want to develop some programming in a chip, and that chip you want to attach in a hardware. Okay, so in that purpose, actually you can use other technologies which is give you the low level access. Okay, so by managed code you cannot get the low level access. So this is one more disadvantage, as per my opinion. Okay. Then okay, now we'll discuss about the unmanaged code. Okay, that what is unmanaged code. Okay, so a code which is directly executed by the operating system is known as unmanaged code. Okay, earlier only I have mentioned that one when we are talking about the managed code. That time only I have a point regarding similarly this one also. That time only I have told you, like uh, any code which is directly executed by your operating system, there is no CLR concept. Okay, it is directly executing by your operating system. That time you can tell, like this is a unmanaged code. Okay, then the second point is it always compiles, you know to the native code that is specific to the architecture. Now, by the second point, you have to understand one thing here. By the second point, it is mentioned like it always it always compiles to the native code that is specific to the architecture. That means unmanaged code is directly executed by the operating system, correct? Now you have to understand that unmanaged code can run any environment, like in any operating system, whether it is a Windows operating system or it will be a Linux operating system or any other operating system, it can be run. Okay, because it is directly run by the operating system itself, there is no CLR dependencies. Okay, so what it unmanaged code is doing, whenever you are running the application which is developed by unmanaged code, it always compile your full code from the beginning. Okay, because because the application is not sure that like uh, every time in which operating system you are running on, right? So every time it will compile the the whole application code, right? And it will create a executable, right? So that is why it is mentioned that it always compiles. Okay, and the third point is like in unmanaged code, the memory allocation, type safety, security, all these things are managed by the developer, okay, manually, right? So so in managed code, if you say in managed code, okay, just now we have discussed, right? In managed code, you 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 don't have to do anything manually, like this memory allocation or type safety or security. All the thing are automatically managed by your managed runtime environment. But in unmanaged code, this type of facility is not there. As a developer, you have to do all the things manually. You have to manage all the things manually. You have to manage your memory allocation manually, then type safety, security, all the other things, right? Then yes, we have some example of unmanaged code, like you can see like C and C++. These two languages, you can easily uh, tell anyone that these two languages is example of unmanaged code, because these two language is directly executed by a operating system. Okay. Okay, now advantages of that unmanaged code is it provides the low level access of the programmer. Sorry, low level access to the programmer, right? So it provides the low level access to the programmer, right? So in managed code you cannot have the access. Okay, low level access you cannot have. But in unmanaged code, because you have to do everything manually, even the memory allocation also, it means you have to have the access, you have to have the low level access. Okay, it is a advantage if you work with work if you are working in an embedded system, application development project, then you have to have a low level access. Okay, then it also provides direct access to the hardware. Yes, so this is the point only we are talking about, that if you are working in a in a embedded system project, then you will work with hardware, right? So if you are working in unmanaged code, then it will provide the direct access to the hardware. Okay, disadvantages now. So the first point is it does not provide security to the application. It is very much correct thing. Security wise, it's actually not good, comparison to a managed code. Okay, then the second point is due to the access to memory allocation, the issues related to memory occur, like memory buffer overflow. Okay, so in unmanaged code you have to do your memory allocation manually. That is why it here in unmanaged code the chances is very much higher, the chances is very much higher to 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 find or to found any issues. Okay, once you complete it with your development, it is in a testing part. It is going to that quality team for testing. Before the release, the testers will found a lots of issues, because this thing is not managed or not handled automatically by your runtime environment, which you can get if you use a managed code. It is so in unmanaged code you will not get those types of facility, you will do it manually. So in when you are do anything manually, there is always a you know a higher chances to make make a mistake, I can say. Okay, so this is the advantage. And then you can have that error and exceptions are also handled by the programmer. You have to handle the exception and error also, okay, manually. And then it does not provide the garbage collection. Even you cannot have the garbage collection also. You cannot have the you cannot have a facility called automatic memory allocation, which is nothing but the garbage collection. So those things you cannot get if you use unmanaged code. Okay. Okay, now you can see this diagram. This diagram is pretty simple and straightforward. So this diagram is for unmanaged code. So first of all, you have to have a source code. Okay, so from the source code, it will compile and it will create a executable, like a executable file, which for a .NET, for a Windows application, it is a exe file, right? Or it is a DLL file. So any executable file which are supports in the unmanaged code, so those file. And then in the CPU, by the operating system or CPU, it is in the CPU you are directly run that executable files, and then you will get the output. Okay, and same in managed code, you have to have a source code. Now here is a bit tricky. The one tricky part is there, which is MSIL. Now MSIL is nothing but Microsoft Intermediate Language. Okay, now MSIL is also a part of a CLR. Okay, it is attached with the CLR only. Okay, so about this MSIL and CLR we will discuss in our later sessions. Okay, but in managed code, yeah, you have to have the CLR concepts. Okay, so source code, then MSIL, then again executable, then CPU, then output. Okay, so everything is fine. Everything is in diagram, everything is kind of similar. Only the add-on part in the managed code is that MSIL. Okay. Okay, now the differences. What is the differences in managed code and unmanaged code? Whatever we have discussed so far, that from the definition and then advantage and disadvantages, okay, those are only the differences between a managed code and unmanaged code. So you can see, like a managed code, executed by managed runtime environment or managed by the CLR, and unmanaged code is directly executed by the operating system. Second, it's provide the security to the application. It does not provide the security to the application, right? And then the third is the managed code provide runtime services, okay, like garbage collection and exception handling, etc. There are many more, and those services are not there in the unmanaged code, right? And then the last point you can mention, like the source code is compiled in the intermediate language known as MSIL. Okay, your source code always converted to intermediate language in when you are using a managed code. But in unmanaged code, it is directly compiles into the native language, means the machine level language, yeah, and it is executed by the operating system. Okay, now this managed code and unmanaged code, whatever we have learned in this session, it is a very important session. Okay, it is a very important session, and almost in every interview, I can say, in from 10, if you attend 10 interviews, almost 6 or 7 interviews, in 6 and 7 interviews you will ask a question by the interviewer, okay, about this concept. The important question I have listed, that what is managed code and what is unmanaged code, or they maybe asked you like what is the disadvantage and advantage of a managed code or unmanaged code, or they may ask that mention some major differences of managed code and unmanaged code, or a most tricky question they may ask you like in which scenarios you will use a managed code or in which scenario you will use a unmanaged code. If they ask you like that, you can mention about that example which I have I have gave you, though that is a real time example that I have gave you, that if you are working in a embedded system project, so that in that particular project it is a you have to you know if you are working in a embedded system project, in that project you have to use unmanaged code, because when you are using unmanaged code you will get the low level access of your computer architecture, and you will have that hardware, directly access to the hardware also. So when you are working in an embedded system project, so it is always you will go with the unmanaged code, okay. And rather than if you are developing any application, lightweight application like web application or desktop application, a mobile application, so those are nothing to have in hardware directly. For those, for working in those application development thing, you can use managed code always, okay. Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed this video and you have learned whatever I want to convey to you. You have understood those things, and if you have any doubt regarding this session, please comment below. I'll definitely try to give you know you know good reply which can help you to understand, which can resolve the query whichever you have asked in that, you will asked in that comment section. So thank you very much once again, and please subscribe my channel, like this video and share with your friends, and happy learning. Thank you.